This is something that has confounded all of science and all of medicine for a very long time.
At the height of his rise, Russel Crowe walked straight into one of Hollywood's messiest affairs with Meg Ryan. And when the dust settled, the fallout was devastating. Careers were altered, reputations cracked, and their lives were never the same. But while Russel and Ryan both played a part in it, one person paid the price in a way no one could have ever imagined. The tabloids called it a reckless affair that ruined 2 lives. But that wasn't the full story, because beneath the headlines, there was something deeper. And the real reason Russel risked it all for an affair with a married woman will shock you. The movie that began, The Affair. By the summer of 2000, Russel Crowe and Meg Ryan were 2 of the most recognizable faces in the world for completely different reasons. She was America's sweetheart, the woman who had made millions believe in the impossible geometry of love across a bookstore. He was the intense, brooding Australian fresh-off gladiator, a man whose on-screen violence seemed to come from somewhere real and slightly dangerous. They had nothing in common except a movie called Proof of Life, and by the time the film was finished, they had thrown away everything for each other. Proof of Life was a tense, high-stakes thriller about hostage negotiation in a politically volatile Latin American country, and it required its actors to spend months in uncomfortable locations while pretending to navigate life-or-death situations. Russel Crowe played Terry Thorne, a specialist who negotiated the release of Westerners held for ransom by armed extremists. When the husband of Meg Ryan's character, Alice Bowman, is kidnapped by militants in the fictional South American country of Tacala, the insurance companies disclaim responsibility, and Thorne is recalled from the job. But he stays on for free because he has taken a liking to Alice. The audience was supposed to believe that a hardened hostage negotiator would risk his life for a woman he barely knew because something about her had gotten under his skin. Whether that made sense on screen is still debated. But what happened off-screen, however, left no room for interpretation. The film was directed by Taylor Hackford and written by Tony Gilroy, who would later become famous for the Bourne series. It ran approximately 130 minutes in its theatrical release and carried an R rating for violence and offensive language. The film was shot primarily in Ecuador and London, locations that offered neither the glamour of Hollywood nor the familiarity of New York. The atmosphere on set was serious rather than lighthearted, partly because the subject matter dealt with a sensitive real-world issue, and partly because Crowe was already under immense pressure during filming. He had recently wrapped Gladiator and was waiting for its release, unsure whether the film would make him a superstar or disappear without a trace. The irony of their situation was that, according to contemporary reviews, the on-screen chemistry between Crowe and Ryan was notably lacking. One critic wrote that the almost complete absence of chemistry between the 2 leads would not just frustrate devotees of the gossip columns, but would sink the film as well. That assessment turned out to be prophetic in more ways than one. Despite their inability to generate believable romantic tension in front of the camera, the off-screen sparks between them were reportedly intense from the very beginning of production. Tabloids soon caught wind of the situation, and photographs emerged of the pair getting cozy on set, in ways that went beyond professional courtesy. During filming, they were reportedly seen together, nuzzling in restaurants and clubs all over London, behavior that was difficult to explain away as method acting. The moment their relationship went public came in July of 2000, at an after-party for the premiere of Mission Impossible 2. Tom Cruise had spent 40 minutes outside the Empire Cinema signing autographs before the screening, even stopping to speak into one girl's mobile phone to say hello to her mother. Crowe attended the premiere with Cruise. The 2 men had met for drinks at London's Soho House private club beforehand. and the evening seemed to be unfolding as a simple display of male friendship. But when the event ended, Crowe and Ryan were photographed leaving the party together, and the image circulated through tabloids within hours. The New York Post reported that the photograph came after several weeks of a rumored affair between the two. The timing of the scandal could hardly have been worse for either of them. Gladiator had been released in May of 2000 and was becoming a massive global hit, just as the affair was breaking into public view. Crowe was transitioning from a respected independent actor into a global attraction symbol, and the whiplash of that transition was disorienting. The director of Proof of Life, Taylor Hackford, later claimed that the affair had an indelible and rather destructive effect on the movie's release because the real-life story overshadowed the fictional one. He claimed that the affair drew attention away from the film itself at the Los Angeles premiere, turning what should have been a celebration of the cast and crew into a circus of tabloid questions about who was dating whom. When Crowe was asked about Hackford's comments, he did not mince words. He called the director an insulting name, and then offered a counter-argument about why the film had performed poorly at the American box office. He said that putting out a hostage negotiation film at Christmas time made no sense, and he was not sure he would go to that sort of film during the holidays himself. He predicted that the movie would be received better in other countries because of the timing of its release. And he may have been right, but the damage was already done. Crowe and Ryan were the villains who had sabotaged their own movie through their personal conduct, and that narrative would follow them through the premiere and into their various careers. Meanwhile, while the tabloids were publishing photographs of the couple leaving parties together, Meg Ryan's husband, Dennis Quaid, was at home in Los Angeles, learning that his marriage was over through the pages of entertainment magazines. And the divorce that followed would break Meg Ryan in ways that the affair never did. The heartbreaking divorce that followed. Dennis Quaid did not see it coming. He was at home in Los Angeles with his son, reading the same tabloids as everyone else. The photographs of his wife leaving a party with Russel Crowe were as much a surprise to him as they were to the general public. He thought his marriage of nearly a decade was stable, or at least salvageable. But he thought wrong. The divorce that followed would not only end one of Hollywood's most admired unions, but would also force both Meg Ryan and Dennis Quaid to confront uncomfortable truths about who had hurt whom first. The separation occurred in June of 2000, almost simultaneously, with the first public sightings of Ryan and Crowe together. The timing could not have been more devastating for Quaid, because it appeared to the outside world that his wife had left him for another man without any warning or provocation. The couple had been married since 1991, and at the time of the separation, their son Jack was 9 years old. They had been viewed as one of Hollywood's power couples, a rare example of two successful actors who had managed to balance demanding careers with a stable family life. The split was described in the media as shocking, not because anyone had been watching for signs of trouble, but because there had been no obvious signs at all. The divorce was not finalized until July of 2001, more than a full year after the separation. During that year, the tabloids feasted on every detail they could find. They painted a narrative in which Ryan had abandoned her family for a younger, more exciting man, while Quaid played the role of the betrayed husband, waiting patiently at home. The actual settlement, when it came, was notably civil by Hollywood standards. The media described it as an admirably civilized divorce settlement, one in which both parties seemed more interested in protecting their son than in destroying each other. The case was filed in a Los Angeles court, and the terms that emerged included joint custody of Jack, with both parents agreeing to share time with him as equally as their schedules allowed. In an unusual detail that suggested genuine cooperation, they even agreed to share the family car after the divorce was finalized. There was no public disclosure of major financial battles, no leaks about bitter fights over property or spousal support. On the surface, at least, the split was amicable. But the surface was deceptive, because the story of who had cheated first was about to complicate everything. During a 2008 interview with InStyle magazine, Ryan made a counterclaim that changed the entire scandal. She said that Dennis had not been faithful to her for a long time, and that she had been very hurt. She said she found out more about his infidelity once she was divorced, as if the full picture of his betrayals only came into focus after the marriage had ended. This was not a woman who had simply woken up one day and decided to leave her husband for Russel Crowe. This was a woman who had endured years of unfaithfulness before she finally reached her breaking point. Quaid's reaction to Ryan's disclosure was defensive. He later slammed the actress for continuing to publicly rewrite the story of their relationship to make her look better and him look worse. But he did not deny the allegation. He could not deny it because in a 2024 interview with Chris Wallace, he made a series of admissions that painted a much more complicated picture of the marriage's failure. Quaid told Wallace that when he met Meg, his career was at a certain level and hers was at a different level. And then, over time, the gap between them shifted. He used hand gestures to show her career ascending, while his remained flat or declined. He tried to be a big person, he said, and he told himself that the imbalance did not bother him. But he admitted that people are human, and it bothered him more than he wanted to acknowledge. The imbalance was particularly painful because Ryan's career was ascending at the time when Quaid had to go into rehab in the 1990s to address his own struggles with addiction and substance abuse. He was fighting for his life while she was becoming America's sweetheart. And the difference between their careers created a resentment that never fully healed. Despite everything, Quaid told Wallace that he did not regret anything about his marriage to Meg, because they got their son Jack out of it. He called Meg a really great, sweet person who was talented and deserved all her success. But he also acknowledged that there had been infidelity on both ends, not just Ryan's affair with Crowe. That admission was the closest he ever came to confessing that he had betrayed her first. And it undercut the simple narrative of Ryan as the villain and Quaid as the victim. Ryan herself had already tried to correct that narrative years earlier. In a 2006 interview on The Oprah Winfrey Show, she insisted that Crowe was not to blame for the end of what she called her very unhealthy marriage. She told Oprah that she was very sad that the marriage had come apart in the way it seemed to have, but it was never about another man. It was about what her and Dennis's relationship could not sustain. She said that once the tabloids got hold of the affair, there was no way to control the story. But she wanted to be clear that she did not leave her marriage for Russel Crowe. She left her marriage because the marriage itself could not continue. But the public did not fully accept this explanation. The tabloids had already decided that Meg Ryan was the villain, and the consequences of that decision would follow her for the rest of her career, damaging her professionally in ways that the divorce itself never could. The devastating aftermath. When the affair became public, the person who paid the highest price was not Russel Crowe and not Dennis Quaid. It was Meg Ryan. She had spent more than a decade building a career on being the woman every man wanted, and every woman wanted to be friends with. That image disappeared almost overnight, and the movies that had made her famous stopped offering her roles. The scandal did not just end her marriage. It ended her reign as the queen of romantic comedies, and she never got that crown back. The first sign of trouble was the box office performance of Proof of Life. The movie came out while the affair was still fresh in the public's mind, and audiences stayed away. Part of that was the film itself. A hostage negotiation thriller released at Christmas made no sense. But most of the blame fell on Ryan. The narrative took hold quickly. She had betrayed her husband. She had broken the trust of her fans, and she no longer deserved to be America's sweetheart. Directors and studios became hesitant to cast her in the light-hearted romantic comedies that had made her a star, because they were not sure the public would show up to see her anymore. Ryan tried to pivot. She knew her old image was gone, so she decided to chase something darker. In 2003, she starred in The Cut, an erotic thriller directed by Jane Campion, with a co-star named Mark Ruffalo, who would later become famous as a Marvel superhero. The film contained explicit content, a complete departure from the safe, warm world of her earlier movies. The public reaction was immediate and brutal. People asked how she could be exposed on screen that way. The media placed Ryan back inside a whirlwind over her off-screen affair with Russel Crowe. Even though the affair was 3 years old by then, the film ended up putting a full stop on her amazing career, as one critic put it, and she never really recovered. She had dominated the romantic comedy genre throughout the 1990s. When Harry Met Sally came out in 1989 and made her famous. Sleepless in Seattle came out in 1993 and made her a star. You've Got Mail came out in 1998 and made her a legend. After 2003, she essentially disappeared from major Hollywood productions. She has worked since then, but sporadically, in independent films and television shows. She never returned to the A-list leading lady status she once held. And entertainment journalists have widely cited the scandal as the turning point when the public turned on her. The breakup between Russel Crowe and Meg Ryan happened before the film was even released. Their relationship was brief. It began on the set of Proof of Life in 2000 and ended sometime before the movie came out. By the time Crowe spoke about the split in a February 2001 interview, the affair was already over. There was no public fighting between them, no dramatic arguments that tabloids could use for headlines. They just parted ways, and they did it quietly. Crowe explained the breakup to Melbourne's Herald Sun in February of 2001. He said that the bottom line was that he had a big life in Australia, and when he was off the hook with his work schedules, he had to come home. He could not sustain himself through the course of the year without visiting home. The thing he missed most, he said, was his dog. He said it was rough being away from his dog for 6 months. He also denied tabloid reports that they had ended things with an argument in a Beverly Hills hotel. He said that everything people read about them arguing and slamming each other was complete garbage. He still spoke of her warmly, calling her a beautiful and courageous woman. He said he grieved the loss of her companionship, but he had not lost her friendship. Ryan told a different story in a 2008 InStyle interview. She revealed that she was the one who ended the relationship, not Crowe. She said she could not be in another long relationship because it was not the time for that, so she got out. She offered a deeper psychological reason for the affair itself. She said that the thing people are so afraid of, which is public censure and judgment of strangers, has no power if you know yourself. She called the affair incredibly liberating because it destroyed the cute Meg persona she had been trapped in for her entire adult life. In a strange way, the scandal that ruined her career also freed her from having to pretend to be someone she was not. The two explanations for the breakup do not contradict each other. Ryan could have ended the emotional commitment while Crowe was the one who physically left the country. She stopped wanting to be in the relationship, and he stopped wanting to be away from his home. Both of them had good reasons to walk away, and neither of them seemed to carry lasting bitterness about it. But for Ryan, the damage was already permanent. She had lost her marriage, her image, and her place in Hollywood. The affair that she described as liberating had cost her almost everything she had spent 15 years building. And the man who had been at the center of it all Russel Crowe, walked away with his career not only intact, but stronger than ever. That imbalance raised a question that no one could answer. Why did he risk so much for something that lasted only a few months? What made Meg Ryan worth throwing away his reputation, his privacy, and his peace of mind? The answer, it turns out, had nothing to do with Meg Ryan at all. Why Russel Crowe risked it all. When the affair with Meg Ryan became public, Russel Crowe was branded a homewrecker. The tabloids printed his picture next to the word "bad boy," and the director of Proof of Life publicly blamed him for the film's poor box office performance. Unlike Ryan, Crowe's career was not destroyed by the scandal, but he faced significant negative press, and the questions about why he had pursued a married woman followed him for years. The answer to those questions turned out to be simpler and more complicated than anyone expected. The timing of the affair could not have been better for Crowe's career, even if it was terrible for his reputation. Gladiator was released in May of 2000, exactly when the scandal was breaking. He was on every magazine cover, not just for the affair, but for the movie that would make him a superstar. The public seemed to forgive or even celebrate his bad boy persona because he was playing a gladiator on screen and acting like one off-screen. He won the Academy Award for Best Actor for Gladiator in 2001, and the gold statue seemed to erase whatever damage the tabloids had tried to do. Crowe himself mocked the bad boy label in interviews. He said he did not care what the misconceptions were, and if people wanted to call him a bad boy, that was fine with him. He pointed out that while all that stuff was being written about him, he was actually back home in Australia, ear-tagging calves on his ranch. He joked about the tabloid exaggerations, saying that according to the newspapers, he had gotten married 3 times in 1 year, had half a dozen babies, and impregnated every woman he talked to. He said he must have the most fertile breath on earth. The jokes were funny, but they also revealed something important about how he saw the situation. He did not take the press seriously, and he did not let their stories change how he lived his life. After the affair with Ryan ended, Crowe reconnected with an Australian singer and actress named Danielle Spencer. She was his ex-girlfriend from before he became famous, and getting back together with her felt like coming home. They married in 2003, and Crowe said at the time that he had been thinking about marrying her for a long time, so he did not have any second thoughts. He said the thought of marrying her had crossed his mind the first time he met her. They had 2 sons together, Charlie, born in 2003 or 2004, and Tennyson, born in 2006, and the family settled into a life on his ranch in Australia, far away from the Hollywood parties and the tabloid photographers. What Crowe has said about the affair in interviews over the years reveals a man who never saw the relationship with Ryan as the grand passion that the tabloids portrayed. He denied the rumors of dramatic fights and hotel room arguments. He emphasized that his connection with Ryan was about friendship more than romance, and he said that what they really liked to do was sit and chat. He refused to blame Ryan for anything negative that happened in his life, and when a reporter asked whether a song on his band's album called Wendy was about her, he said no and moved on. He never gave a definitive answer about why he started an affair with a married woman. There is no interview where he explains his motivations in a single quote. But his explanation for ending the relationship reveals his mindset more clearly than any confession about starting it ever could. He said that he had a big life in Australia, and when he was not working, he had to come home. He could not sustain himself without going back home. The relationship with Ryan, though meaningful to him, was always going to be temporary because his real life was somewhere else. That is the key to understanding why he risked everything. Russel Crowe did not see the affair as a risk. He saw it as a connection with someone he genuinely liked spending time with. And when the connection became complicated, he simply went back to the place and the life that actually mattered to him. He did not give up everything for Meg Ryan because he never considered what he had to give up. His career was already on the rise, and no tabloid story was going to stop Gladiator from becoming a hit. His home life was waiting for him in Australia, and no affair was going to replace the feeling of being on his ranch with his dog and his cattle. He moved through the scandal the way he moved through everything else, with a kind of stubborn indifference to what other people thought. Ryan, by contrast, had no such refuge. Her image was her currency, and the affair destroyed that currency. She could not go back to a ranch in Australia and forget about Hollywood because Hollywood was where her entire identity lived. Crowe walked away from the affair with his career intact, his reputation slightly dented, but quickly repaired by an Oscar and a string of successful movies. He married his old girlfriend, had 2 sons, and settled into a life that had nothing to do with the tabloid stories written about him. The tragedy of the affair is not that 2 people loved each other and could not make it work. The tragedy is that only one of them paid a lasting price, and that person was not Russel Crowe. He risked nothing he was not willing to lose. He gave up nothing he truly needed. And when he was done, he went home to his dog and his cattle and his Australian sky, leaving Meg Ryan to face the consequences alone. He said it himself in that February 2001 interview. He grieved the loss of her companionship, but he had not lost her friendship. That is not the language of a man who threw everything away for a grand romance. That is the language of a man who enjoyed someone's company for a while and then moved on. The scandal that destroyed Meg Ryan's career was, for Russel Crowe, just another chapter in a life full of chapters. He turned the page and kept walking. She is still trying to turn hers. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click on the next video on your screen, like this video, and subscribe to our channel for more updates.